Hello and welcome to Jolineknitsalot. This is my show about knitting and crafting and the things I get up to here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'm sitting here with my corgi Blue, who has decided to sit quite nicely beside me today. We'll see if he starts barking. It is October and it's Thanksgiving weekend here in Canada. We celebrate Thanksgiving on the second Monday of October, which happens to be my younger daughter's birthday this year. So we have lots of things to celebrate. Not the least of which is that Jolineknitsalot has turned 3. It's my YouTube channel's 3rd birthday this year in September. And we're also celebrating 750 subscribers. So there's lots to celebrate here at Jolineknitsalot. And in the spirit of giving thanks, I would like to offer a little present. Calling it a present because I don't want to get in trouble by calling this a giveaway. However, to celebrate my channel's 3rd birthday and 750 subscribers, I would like to offer this little sock kit by Polka Dot Creek yarns in the Joline colorway with the spelling corrected by my older daughter. We'll be doing a little in order to be qualified to be the recipient of this lovely little sock set and a couple of other little goodies, please just leave a comment on this video. Let me know what it is you're knitting in the fall, or let me know what it is you're grateful for. And I will be selecting a lucky recipient from the comments of this video, and I'll be announcing it on my next video in 2 weeks' time. So if you're interested in knitting some Joline socks and celebrating with me my YouTube channel's birthday and the amazing gift of having so many people join me in knitting and crafting, please leave a comment below and let me know what it is you're knitting and what you're grateful for. And you might be the recipient of a lovely little sock kit. The last couple of weeks have been busy for me. I was in Seattle and Vancouver, and I posted a quick little video about some of the places that I've been, but I thought I'd take a little bit of time here to let you know a little bit more about that trip, I suppose. I flew out to Vancouver on a Wednesday, the Wednesday before Knit City. A good friend of mine has moved to Vancouver recently, and so she picked me up from the airport and we headed straight for the border, which isn't very far from Vancouver. It takes maybe an hour, a little over an hour to get to the US border from Vancouver International Airport. So we headed straight to the US border, crossed into the United States, and our first stop was the Spin Cycle shop in Bellingham, Washington, which is lovely. If you've never been, I would recommend it. It's a lovely, beautiful kind of brick building with library shelves and tons of Spin Cycle yarns, as well as other makers too. And my friend and I both decided to pick out yarn to make a new shift cowl. The amazing thing about being at the store in person is that you can pick and choose the skeins that you want and see how they look together. And if you're familiar with Spin Cycle, you might know that from skein to skein, the colors can change. Some of them are heavier on a lighter color or heavier on a darker color, or just the blend is slightly different. And so it's really nice to have the yarn in your hand to play with in terms of setting up a kit. So my little new shift that I am going to be knitting, I think I started with this skein, sort of as the basis, and it is called Wallflower and Rusted Rainbow. So what they do is they take 2 of their existing colors and they ply them together. So that's what this one is. And then I found a darker color that I liked. This is called Nostalgia. And I think you can see how that's going to be a really fun sort of blend. And then I needed something on the lighter end, I think, just to sort of bring the colors together. And I got this color, which is Wallflower, which is funny because this one is Wallflower and Rusted Rainbow. So that makes a lot of sense that they look good together. And that is the little shift cowl kit that I picked up while I was in at the Spin Cycle Supply Co., or their shop in Bellingham. And we stopped for a great Italian dinner right across the street from the store, and then headed down to Seattle. The next day was all about Bainbridge Island, and we took a ferry across. We just walked. We stayed in downtown Seattle. It was very walkable for us to just head down to the ferry and walk on board. And then we didn't have to worry about vehicles or parking or anything. So we took the ferry across. We landed in Bainbridge. It's about a half an hour ferry crossing. And our first stop was the Lamb & Kid. What an amazing store. For one, it's huge. It's really, really big. And the walls are painted this really, really deep green color with gold accents everywhere. And it really makes the colors of the yarn stand out. And if you know anything about the Lamb & Kid, you'll know that they are really great with color. My friend and I both found this sample of a scarf called the Wavy Gravy in the store, and we both decided we wanted to knit it in the colors that the sample was in. So I guess I'm going to mix in works in progress and haul in this great section. So this is my version of that Wavy Gravy, and we picked up a yarn called Big Birdie. Big Birdie is here, let me read you the label. It's amazing, really light and airy. This is what the label looks like. It's a Diamond Lane, Big Birdie. It's an Aran weight yarn, 79% alpaca, 21% silk. It's 174 yards in 100 grams. So it's quite a lofty yarn, and it knits up really, really beautifully. So this is the Wavy Gravy, and we picked the 5 colors that this shop sample were knit in. So I got a skein of Pop Rocks, Lobster, Blackbird, Buttermint, and Toffee. And yeah, it's coming along nicely. It's not quite done, but I think it'll be amazing when it is. It's really soft, and I think it's going to make for a great scarf, especially if I show the right side out. I'm working on my 5th repeat of the pattern, and I'll probably end up having to do maybe 7, possibly 8. It's a big chunky knit, but a great pattern. And if you get a chance to try the yarn, I would totally recommend it. I also got a skein of this same yarn in, I can't remember the color of it. It's a really neutral color. And the reason I got it was because I thought if I have leftovers from my Wavy Gravy wrap, then I could make a sherbet bandana, which is another pattern put out by Lamb & Kid. It's a free pattern, and it uses a skein of this yarn. So I thought if I have leftovers, I could make some stripy bandanas that might be great for Christmas gifts. So that was the Lamb & Kid, and another amazing store. Completely recommend you go there if you have the chance. And then we kept on walking in Bainbridge Island and made our way to La Mercerie, which is another great yarn store on Bainbridge Island. It's very different. Lamb & Kid dyes all of their own yarn. I think apart from some Spin Cycle that they have, most of their yarn is their own hand-dyed yarn. The La Mercerie carries more European brands, I would say. They had Knitting for Olive, they had Biche Bouche, they had Gilead, not Gilead. Not sure what the name of the dyer of this one is, or the yarn house. I picked up this yarn, Ulysses, which is it's a French yarn. And they also had Gilead and a couple of others by this same maker. This, excuse me, this is the sport weight version of Gilead, so very similar. Oh, it's beautiful. I got a sweater's quantity in this salt and pepper colorway. That's translated. In French, it's Pouve et Sel. And this is 100% wool, 185 meters and 50 grams. And it is this, I would say, a sport weight, sport to DK. So that's what I got at La Mercerie. They really were a nice little shop too. Not quite as big as the Lab and Kid, but a great selection of a variety of different yarns, and just really lovely shop. The way it's laid out, it sort of has little rooms. There's a room full of fiber for spinning, and then other rooms dedicated to different brands of yarn, but a really cute shop also. And that was our experience on Bainbridge Island. The Friday of that long weekend, we headed back up to Vancouver so we could attend the lecture on Friday evening. It was a lecture by Cecilia Campochiaro, and she talked a lot about her sort of delving into or studying of sequence knitting, which is taking different groups of knits and then stacking them on top of each other in various ways. So taking a pattern, let's say knitting 2 by 2, and then offsetting that by 1, and what does that do to the pattern? And then a similar sort of take on marling. So if you were to take different strands of different yarns and marl them together to get different colors, and what does that do for your knitting, and how can you use many strands of yarn together in different ways to get different colors and different color effects. So it's a really interesting lecture, especially because she comes at knitting from, I think, a very academic perspective. She has put a lot of thought into how things work, how the knits and purls of various texture patterns work together, but also she took the time to swatch all of her, I suppose, hypotheses to see what they would look like. And so she's written whole books on them, and they're really amazing volumes looking at how to combine either knits and purls, or different colors of strands of yarn together to create different effects. So that was Friday night. And then Saturday was the Knit City Marketplace. And the Knit City Marketplace never fails to delight. It is an amazing collection of makers from, I would say, Western Canada, although there were some American vendors as well. In fact, Spin Cycle was there, and I was kind of glad I had the opportunity to select my yarn in a calmer environment, because if you've ever been to a knitting festival, you'll know that sometimes the vendor hall can be an exciting and busy and bustling place. So why don't I just show you some of the things that I came home with. I don't need any yarn, as you know. I've been trying to stash down, but of course I got some things, as you do. One of the first things that I got that I had been looking for was some more DPN cozies. And these cute little DPN cozies were from a vendor from Quebec, actually. And I'm not even going to pretend that I can pronounce that correctly. But she had said that she had just made these sort of on a whim. She wasn't sure that how well they would be received. And I had been looking for more of DPN cozies in this size. This is about a 6-inch size, because I find them perfect for my DPNs when I'm knitting socks. So I picked up a couple of those. I also, I was wooed by punch needle. Now I do have a punch needle kit that I have not completed. I'll admit it. And it just sits there mocking me, sort of, because I do find it very relaxing. I just need to find the time. But while I was at Knit City, I spoke to the lovely lady at Cussin and Kiss, who has been there for a number of years, and I've been sort of tempted by the punch needle. But the thing that was holding me back, I think partly, was the fact that I don't really have a frame that would be big enough to punch something on. But she solved that problem for me this year by putting together a pillow front kit. This is what it looks like. Those are the colors that I chose. And punch needle is using a needle to create loops into fabric. The fabric that is used is called monk's cloth. So it is a looser weave, and it allows for the yarn to stick, to poke through the fabric without damaging the fabric. And it can be, you can pull out your punch needle if you don't like how it looked, and you can repunch your monk's cloth fabric. This kit contains, let me see, here we go. This kit is big enough to make a 12 by 12 cushion cover, which looks like that. It contains a reusable pine frame, the monk's cloth required to make this kit, a pattern design, pattern instructions with photos, and a punch needle basic booklet. The kit includes all of the yarn required to make one of these, but once I've made this, I will have the pattern and I could make it again. I would just have to purchase more yarn, so I could either make it in this color or I could make it in other colors, or I could choose a different pattern to punch needle. I'll have the frame, and then all I'll need are the supplies to make another cushion cover. So hoping maybe that in January tends to be a time when, although we're busy with activities, my crafting sort of mojo slows down a little bit. And so maybe January or February might be a time to try a punch needle. But I have a kit and I'm ready once I have time and inspiration. What else did I get at the market? I purchased another sweaters quantity. And this looks a lot like the other sweaters quantity I got, but the heart wants what the heart wants. And apparently my heart wants an oatmeal cardigan. So I purchased a sweaters quantity of yarn from San Juan Woolworks because apparently my heart wants an oatmeal colored cardigan. This yarn is really, it's beautifully soft. This is the Spy Hop yarn, and it is a Finn and BFL cross lamb's wool. So it's very soft. It looks to be naturally colored. And the great thing about this yarn is that the label tells me all about where this yarn came from. It was sourced from the Oak Knoll Farm on San Juan Island, Washington. It was shorn by Becca Shim and Mike Murphy in September of 2022 and May of 2023. And it was scoured, carded, and spun at Skagit Woolen Works and Abundant Earth Fiber Mill. I really like that there's so much information about the sheep and the farm and the people who made this yarn, all included on this little label. This is a DK weight yarn. The color is called Driftwood Heather, and this yarn has 238 yards and 100 grams. And my plan is to make a very simple V-neck cardigan, probably something by Petite Knits, because her designs are so very classically sort of oriented. And I think just a simple V-neck cardigan will be ideal. And the last thing I got was only because my friend left me alone. It's not, I was going to get this yarn eventually anyway. It's just that they had it at the marketplace. And so I bought it. And that's this year's West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas colorway. West Yorkshire Spinners is a really reliable yarn producer. I really like their 4-ply yarn, which this is. I use it often for heels, cuffs, and toes, and that's my milk bottle that you'll see often used. In fact, I think I have some projects that I've used it before. Last year, I knit my husband a pair of socks in the gingerbread colorway, which was last year's Christmas colorway. And this year's colorway is called Nutcracker. And so I have a daughter who dances, and I thought Nutcracker might be a lovely colorway. I'm not sure if she'll want socks made out of this, but I think I will. You can see that it's got some glitter to it. Not all of their Christmas colorways have glitter, but this one does. And so I think I'll be knitting up a pair of socks, probably for myself, but possibly also for my daughter, out of this. And that is all of the things that I got that I can remember. I'm pretty sure that's everything. Let me tell you, I flew to Vancouver and back to Edmonton with only a carry-on suitcase and a backpack, and they were pretty jam-packed full when I was coming home. But if I can make any recommendation, is that travel with either packing cubes or Ziploc bags if you're planning on buying yarn, because you can suck the air out of them and those really decompress, meaning you can fit more yarn into your suitcase. And I think that brings you up to date with all of the places I've been and the yarn I have brought home. Why don't I tell you what some of the things I was knitting while I was traveling so much? I managed to finish my Cumulus blouse. I used a skein of wool Misa lace weight and I held it double. I do like the fabric I got. I did sort of run out on the sleeves, in the sense that I didn't have enough to make a full-length sleeve, but I am actually kind of a fan of this 3/4 length sleeve that has just gone just past my elbow. And I'll insert some pictures to show you how it looks. But it's quite a nice little sweater. I had to redo the I-cord binding on the bottom because the first time I did it, I found that the fabric was still rolling a lot. So I pulled out my original I-cord edging and I took a one size smaller needle and I redid all of the I-cord edging on the bottom, and that has given me kind of a slightly firmer, I guess, bottom hem, but it means that the fabric does not roll, sorry. I did the same thing on the sleeves, cuffs. As you can see, there's a little I-cord edging there, and also on the neckline. And I do find that it's sitting nicer now. I think this is a cute little sweater. It's, I wouldn't say it's cropped, but it's not a very long sweater. So I think it'll look great with some high-waisted trousers and jeans. I am quite happy with it. So that's my Cumulus blouse. I've also finished all of the socks. Well, not all of the socks, but many, many socks. These are my socks that I was working on last time, I believe. This is a colorway by the Wool Baron, and it is called I Hate Tacos, Said No One Ever. And it's appropriate because my friend and I definitely went for tacos while we were in Vancouver. I used my Polka Dot Creek peach colorway. It is the skein that keeps on giving. And I used it for my heels, cuffs, and toes. And I believe I finally used up that skein. But boy, this was a great color, it turns out, to use with a lot of different colorways. I probably paired my leftovers. So this was a yarn that I used for last year's Stephen West Knit Along. And I paired it with at least 2 self-striping colorways. And I used it, I think, in 3 pairs of socks. So I had lots left over, and it was really nice to have a colorful contrast to some of my self-striping yarns. This summer I have knit 3 pairs of Fairground socks, this being the 3rd pair. I knit a pair for myself, a pair for my niece, and then I found this skein in my stash, which I thought would make some very fun autumnal socks. And here's one of them. This yarn is another yarn by the Wool Baron. This was her yarn from last year, and it's called Fall 2022, and it has 22 stripes. But if you look at the way that the stripes work, it's actually sort of a mirror. So it starts, these socks are cast on at the top, so I'll start there. It starts with like a caramelly color, and then it moves all the way through these shades till we get to this tan color. And then the color order reverses, and we go all the way back down to the taupe. I didn't realize that until I was, probably 3/4 of the way done knitting the first sock. And then I was so incredibly impressed by this dyer's knitting ability. And I also worked very hard to try and get the socks to use 1 repeat of the colorway. And I think I was pretty successful. Aren't they lovely? And a very sort of fun autumnal color. I had some yarn left over from a Stephen West pattern from a couple of years ago. It's this really deep blackberry color, and this is a color by Sassy Strings, Fiber Co, I believe. So all of these are sort of relatively local to me dyers, which is also really nice. So that was my second pair of needles, socks off the needles. And it turns out that if I'm driving places or traveling a lot, I can really knit a lot of socks. So the last thing that I finished was my October sock tube. And well, if you've ever knit a sock tube into a pair of socks, you'll know that this is sort of a quicker project, because all you're knitting are the toes, the cuffs, and the heels. Turns out using sock blockers can be a bit of a pain. Now, when I took these socks and I turned them into tubes, I think I made them slightly too long for myself, as you can see. So this is the Sally colorway, a colorway by Nomadic Fibers. And the heel, cuffs, and toes are knit with another yarn that I used in a Stephen West knit along 2 years ago. This is like a really golden yellow color. I can't remember the exact color of it. But you can see I put the heels in too far back. And so now I've got this much extra on my toe. So I'm thinking that these socks will probably go to my niece, who has slightly longer feet than I do. And I hope she likes them. And that is all of the socks off my needles. But I have one other thing I just finished the other day, and that is a little mug cozy. Now I had some of this yarn left over from my fairground socks, and I didn't want it to go to waste. So I cast on 60 stitches from my sock needles that I had, and I just knit 2x2 rib for about 4 inches to make a coffee cozy. So this will go on a paper cup that I pick up for coffee takeaway, and you can just slide it right on top and keep your hand cozy and not use a cardboard one. So again, I just cast on 60 stitches and I knit 2x2 ribs until I had 4 inches and made a little coffee cozy. And that is all of the things off my needles this episode. I have been knitting on a couple of little projects while I was waiting for Stephen West's new knit along to start. One of those things was the wavy gravy shawl or wrap, which I showed you earlier. Again, that is knit in some Big Birdie that we got at the Lamb & Kid. And I mean, it's such a quick knit because the yarn is so lofty, and it's a really easily memorized stitch pattern with a really easy to remember stripe, row count. And so it's just been flying off the needles. I remembered from years past that when I'm knitting a Stephen West pattern, some weeks can be a lot of knitting and some weeks can be a little less knitting. And so I thought it would be great to have some projects on the needles that I could pick up and put down in between knitting each clue of the Stephen West knit along as they came out. So the wavy gravy is one of those patterns, although I don't think it'll take me too much longer to finish that project. And the other thing I cast on was a pair of socks. The other thing I have on my needles is a pair of socks. I always have a pair of socks on my needles. And this pair is just sort of to take to watch my kids perform or compete, or just to have while I'm waiting around. And this is a pair of socks for my husband. I am using the DRK Everyday Sock pattern, and I thought I'd try a pair for him to see how he might like them. I'm using the West Yorkshire Spinners in the Milk Bottle colorway, so that's that same yarn without the sparkle this time. And I had a skein of this marled sock yarn in my stash that I've had for quite some time. This is a yarn by Leo and Roxy, and it is a lovely marled yarn that makes perfect like work socks. So this is a DRK Everyday sock. I'm getting better. Every time I do them, I'm getting better and better at the cast on. I'm going to measure a pair of his socks that he wears and see how long he likes his socks. And then I will use the measurements given in the DRK Everyday pattern She tells you how much to subtract from the total length of the sock. And then at that point, you start your heel or gusset increases, because I'm knitting from the toe up. So this is going to be a pair of socks for my husband. They are DRK Everyday Socks, and I'm using this lovely marled yarn. And then my plan is to, at the heel, throw in a couple of red stripes so they look a lot like Sock Monkey socks. I'm starting to knit some Christmas gifts here and there, and so I'll be sharing those with you next time. Thank you very much for putting up with my little haul at the beginning of this video. I'm really looking forward to knitting through the yarn that I've picked up over the next few months, and I do have some sweater plans in the works. They may not start until after Christmas, once I've finished some gift knitting and some other holiday knitting. But I have some sweaters to look forward to, and that's always fun. I hope in the next couple of weeks you find time to do the things you like to do, whether that's trying to keep up with Stephen West's mystery shawl or crafting something very special for yourself. I know in the next couple of weeks I plan on knitting a lot. I'll see you soon. Bye.